Fox Sports.
We are the Fourth. We are Florida.
We're back in New York City. The Marlins and the Mets hoping to play two again today. We said that yesterday, of course, didn't happen, so they back it up. We'll play a doubleheader today. Weather seems to be a little bit better just in terms of the precipitation. Austin Jackson is ready to go. Maybe not quite as ready as Lewis Brinson, however, but we look to be getting this four-game series done in its entirety here at Citi Field. Ready for some baseball. And back with you here inside the broadcast booth. As if we never left, Paul Severino and Todd Hollandsworth. A quick night's sleep, but it looks like two are in our future today.
Well, we barely did leave. I mean, when you add up the time, I think we got back to our room. Everybody packed and ran right back to the bus in order to get here in time for a doubleheader. But it looks like the doubleheader is going to happen today. And boy, oh boy, I'll tell you, I'm excited about this first game.
Absolutely. A lot to be excited about. Good pitching matchup to start. These are the four starters that are going to go today. Jeff Brigham in his second major league start later on tonight against Jason Vargas, the veteran. But this afternoon, Sandy Alcantara and Steven Matz. And let's focus in on the Marlins starter. Alcantara has been everything that we hoped we would see from him, especially that last time out.
Well, there's no doubt about it. You go back to that first start. Oh, by the way, it was against the Mets, so he's got a little history to play off of right there, but didn't throw very many strikes. You know, only about 51% strikes in that first matchup, but picked up the win. Dominated anyway because, boy, oh boy, that 98-mile-an-hour fastball is hard to handle. Now, start number two, his last one, absolutely dominant, brilliant. You saw much better pitch efficiency. You saw 66% strikes, and boy, oh boy, he got after it. So I am so excited to see Sandy's follow-up act against a team, again, that he's faced already this season. So good stuff going for Alcantara.
Now, of course, the thing of it is through two starts, nobody's going to crown him the ace of this staff. But what we saw last time out, and we'll talk about it throughout the game, was kind of that ace kind of makeup of here it is, hit it, and they couldn't.
I'll tell you what, I don't want to say it was a complete 180, but it was pretty close. We'll get in that maybe the 175 is kind of where I want to go with this. He was that good. I told you, I said it at the time, it was one of the 5 best starts I've seen from Marlins start of this season. Now, again, this is a follow-up act, so you know me, sometimes I get a little crazy and a little excited up here, but I was really excited after that last start. That's why I'm excited today, because I really do believe this is who Sandy Alcantara is.
It'll be fun to watch him. As the Mets believe, it's been fun to watch Steven Matz. Now that he's been healthy this year, for sure, that's been the whole thing, that he's been able to take the ball every 5th day. Last few times out, racking up the strikeouts, and he'll see a familiar foe, the Marlins, today.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Matz has got the 3.06 ERA and 6 career starts, but here's the deal. This is going to be his 3rd start at Citi Field against the Marlins in his career. He's got an ERA up over 9. That's kind of what catches your attention. He's the odd one. You know, you kind of look at these Mets and you try to figure them out, right? Some guys hit well at home, some guys hit well on the road, and, you know, you try to make sense of it all. This is a bit of a pitcher's park. But he doesn't pitch very well here, and that's kind of what it comes down to. So I find it very interesting today. It's a classic matchup. They know Matz. Hopefully the Marlins will be able to scratch across a few runs today.
Figured out a way to get to DeGrom a couple of nights ago. Not much against Wheeler last night. Sandy Alcantara is on the bump today. We will hear from him on his 3rd big league start coming up next. Marlins and Mets getting set for a double dip, and Sandy Alcantara on the mound for the opener. Let's go downstairs to Jessica Blaylock.
Yeah, Paul, like you mentioned, Sandy Alcantara getting ready to take the mound for the Marlins in game one of this doubleheader, and he is coming off of a fantastic start against the Phillies where he was able to make it through 7 scoreless innings. And for Sandy, he says he's feeling good every time he takes the mound.
I'm 100% comfortable. I just get out there and try to do my job, and attack the hitter.
What do you think has been your greatest strength so far?
My work. I was working hard in AAA, to get here, and now I'm here and do the same.
How valuable was the time in AAA to get you prepared for pitching in the big leagues?
I was waiting for my time. I was waiting for my time in AAA. Keep doing the same, keep doing my job, keep working hard, and doing the same. To the baseball, to the home plate.
And yes, it is a small sample size, but in 2 starts, Sandy Alcantara is 2-0 with a sub-1 ERA. When we return, it is game 1 of a doubleheader here at Citi Field. Yes, we finally have baseball, so let's go ahead and get this one started. First pitch is coming up next.
News at the ballpark today prior to the doubleheader. David Wright essentially announcing his retirement in a way. Going to be activated on the 25th and play a game on the 29th. Here is David Wright from today.
First of all, Mets ownership in the front office, they've certainly treated me like family the last 18 years of my life. I've been wearing this uniform or something similar for half my life now. And that's an honor that I don't take lightly and something that I take a lot of pride in. To my teammates, coaches, and staff, it's truly been an honor of a lifetime to take the field with you and serve as your captain. Some of my closest friendships have formed in that clubhouse, and we'll certainly be friends for life. I said it when I was a younger player, and I'll say it again. I truly bleed orange and blue, and throughout this process, the love and the support and the respect from inside and outside the organization has meant the world to me.
Yeah, certainly an emotional day today with David Wright, but selfishly, we'll be able to see his final game. It'll be against the Marlins coming up in a couple of weeks, and that will certainly be a special day here at Citi Field. A double dip today. Miguel Rojas digs in to lead it off. The rest of the Marlins starting lineup presented to you by Southwest. Lewis Brinson out in center field today. Out in the number 5 spot right ahead of Brian Anderson, and first pitch swinging is Miguel Rojas, and we are underway. Steven Matz and the Mets hosting this 4-game set. And again, looks like we'll get them all in after a Monday rainout. Yesterday was yesterday.
Let's go ahead and get to the end of the day before you start getting too excited over there, buddy.
All right. All right.
Check yourself. That's right. Steven Matz making his career-high 27th start.
Fly ball out to right for Brandon Nimmo to make the play, and there is one quick out.
All right, let's go ahead and get you the AutoNation scouting report of Steven Matz, 6'2", 27 years old, super sinker. Well, since returning from the disabled list on August 16th, now that's 5 starts. His last 5 starts, his sinker's been a lot better. 170 batting average against. Now, July ERA was 6.07, and part of that was because the sinker was no good. He ended up going on the DL, 320 batting average. Now, run. Of course, you've got to get a few runners on in order to make this happen, but 25 of 27 base stealers have been successful this season. You got to get on, and you got to think, be active, be as aggressive as you possibly can be on the bases, because you might be able to turn that into some runs. And of course, the big fly is the last one. Matz has already allowed a season high and a career high 22 home runs. Oddly enough, 15 of the 22 here at Citi Field.
It's supposed to be a little bit of a pitcher's park, though.
I think so, which I find that just to be odd.
Maybe it's the pitchers that make it a pitcher's park, though. I mean,
well,
the guys
certainly
that we have seen, you could make that case, I'm sure.
Right. Well, as I mentioned, Steven Matz is now making his 27th start on the season. He's got 1 win at Citi Field. I mean, that's just shocking. He's better than that,
yes,
isn't he, right? I mean, we look at the numbers, 3.82 ERA, just 1 win.
And you could make the exact same case for Jacob deGrom.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of
that's a good point.
The win column, yes. But such is the case. deGrom, suffering a loss the other night against the Marlins. Zach Wheeler with 8 terrific innings last night as the Mets evened up this 4-game series. Matz and Alcantara this afternoon. Brigham in his 2nd major league start tonight against Jason Vargas.
Now for Matz, I told you about the sinker. Throws it about 59% of the time. 94 miles an hour is where it sits on the season. 233 batting average against. Change, slider, curve.
2 balls and 2 strikes now to Starlin Castro, who chops one wide of third. Castro 1 for 3 in last night's ball game, 4 for 14 on the road trip, couple of doubles. This is a road trip that started in Pittsburgh. Rain on Sunday, so only played 2 there. Here in New York, and then off to Philadelphia after this one. Backhanded up the middle by Wilmer Flores. 2 away.
Get you the Mets defensively for today's ball game. Conforto once again gets the start in left field. Austin Jackson in center. Nimmo slides over to right. He was in center last night. Frazier Reinmeyer gets the start at shortstop. Flores at second. Bruce over at first. Plawecki behind the plate. Steven Matz on the mound.
First-year manager Mickey Callaway has certainly had some ups and downs along the way for these New York Mets. As JT Realmuto grounds one off his foot. 0-1. The ups started pretty early for New York. They started the season 11-1 and a 9-game win streak mixed in. That's when we saw the Mets for the first time. But then they fell on some hard times. However, they have won 20 of their last 33 games. But given where they are in the standings right now, it seems to be a little too late. 66 and 78 at the start of play. Ball and 2 strikes to Realmuto.
JT 2 for 10 on the road trip. Scored a couple of runs. Also has a double. So for 2 last night.
JT fouls that one back. I just heard over the loudspeaker, not sure if you heard that at home, but it looks as though Austin Dean has been lifted from the 8th spot in the Marlins lineup, and Rafael Ortega has been inserted into that spot and into left field. So a late lineup switch for Don Mattingly's Marlins as the 3-2 pitch to Real Muto misses upstairs, and that's the first base runner of the afternoon.
A nice at bat by JT. That's really pitching Real Muto quite carefully, working around the zone, tried up a couple of times, fouled off a few pitches, but a good walk. Certainly want to get off to a good start in game 1. Offensively, you think about what your day is going to entail. As I promised, no rain, then you're going to get at least 18 innings. So you're going to get a lot of at-bats today, and you certainly want to get off to a good start. Ideally get that swing in gear and get into a good rhythm at home plate. Brian Anderson 1 for 3 last night. He's had a nice road trip, 4 for 12. Triple in game 1.
Well, again, the broken schedule, again, because of the weather, may hopefully give a little bit of a rest to Brian Anderson, whose September has certainly not been as great as his first 5 months have been. Takes inside, a ball and a strike. 4 for 26, 12 strikeouts, and the number that stands out is the 4 walks, because he's been very consistent, hits or no hits, with at least finding a way to get on base with the free pass. But again, hopefully the added off days will allow him to finish strong and finish what has been really a terrific rookie season. Again, award or not, a good rookie year for Brian Anderson. Unable to hold up there. Matz gets the strikeout and strands a runner in the first. We'll watch Sandy pitch next. Is brought to you by Southwest. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. By WB Mason. Who but WB Mason, the official office supply company of the Miami Marlins. By Chevrolet. See your South Florida dealer today. And by your South Florida Toyota dealers. Another overcast day here at Citi Field, but baseball throughout the day. A double dip to wrap up this 4-game set. Glad you're with us. Paul Severino and Todd Hollinsworth. Jessica Blaylock down on the field. Here is a look at the Mets starting lineup, presented to you by Southwest. Todd Frazier, who got the day off, or the night off last night, back in the starting lineup. He was ejected in game 1 of this series, but he will hit 5th and play 3rd. Austin Jackson, a guy who is on his 3rd big league club this year is right after Frazier, and all 9 of those Mets will face Sandy Alcantara. An 0.75 ERA, yes, through 2 starts, but that last one was an absolute doozy.
Yeah, it certainly was, making his 3rd start of the season. Freshly turned 23 years old on September 7th. Last time we saw him, he was a 22-year-old. Now he's 23.
That's right. He was going. We had that whole theme.
That's right.
The double theme.
That's right. So he pitched well just before his birthday at 2nd start. 97 pitches, 7 innings. It really stands out to most of us, the 66% strike rate, up from the 51% which we saw in that 1st start, which was back in June, but interestingly enough, against the Mets. And one thing that stands out for Sandy, through 2 starts, and you'll see this at the top of the Mets lineup. 3 of the first 4 guys are left-handed. Lefties, 0-42, only 1 for 24 in the 2 starts. He's really commanded his fastball, particularly against the lefties.
Nimmo fouls it back and out of play. A ball and 2 strikes to the Mets right fielder. 16 homers, 44 RBIs for Nimmo. There's an 18-game on-base streak going. Down the left field line, and that will get down fair into the corner. Rafael Ortega is there to dig it out. And speaking of Ortega, a late scratch, Austin Dean out and Ortega in.
Yeah, let's get you the Marlins defensively. Just saw Ortega hustling into the corner to get the double. Brinson gets the start in center. Galloway in right. Anderson, 3rd base. Rojas in short. Castro, O'Brien getting the start over at first, and JT Realmuto behind the plate.
So at the moment, no additional information has been given, just that Austin Dean a late scratch. So hopefully it's nothing more than maybe just a second thought on a matchup or something like that. Here's Jay Bruce. He takes a little low. For Bruce, a grand slam last night to left field, and just off, there's a tiny wall, maybe about 1.5 feet, 2 feet wall beyond the outfield wall. It kind of clanked off of that and right into the glove of Rafael Ortega. Thought maybe to the naked eye that it was a great catch of the wall. Turns out it was a grand slam. One more look at the granny last night.
Well, elevated fastball with arm side run up to the top corner of the strike zone. Stayed right on it and drove it out. Ortega, yeah, you see the effort there. Great effort as he tries to climb the wall. Rain coming down after hitting it. Ball caromed right into his glove.
It was a great play. It did count as an out, but it was a great play.
Well, you know what I thought of? I thought of, 10 years ago, you might have sold that.
Yeah.
Today's day and age, no chance. Like, don't even bother. Don't even hold your glove up.
Yeah.
There's no point anymore.
Yeah. 3rd base umpire Dan Bellino had it right. And I think what may have given it away was, a long wait last night, 5.5-hour rain delay. We're probably an hour and a half into the game at that point in time. Not a lot of people had stayed. And a lot of people had stayed, but not a lot of people in the ballpark. And there was a big clank that you could hear. And I think that might have been what gave it away for Dan Bellino, who is the 2nd base umpire today. 1 ball and 2 strike pitch to Bruce up the middle. And Rojas thought about 3rd, but Nimmo gets over to 3rd on the ground ball. Bruce retired, and there is 1 away. Weather today, 75 degrees, 79% humidity, overcast again, 15% chance of rain. Just about sick of seeing the rain over this road trip, and I don't know if there's going to be much in terms of relief going to Philadelphia or not. Hopefully there is. I know that Hurricane Florence is bearing down on the East Coast, right around the Carolinas. Hopefully everybody is able to stay safe, evacuate if needed. I know the city of Miami knows a thing or two about hurricanes the last calendar year or so. Wilmer Flores now with the infield in. Takes that one low and away. 2 balls and no strikes. Flores over at 2nd today for the New York Mets. Nimmo's leadoff double, and moving over on the ground ball, he is away from 3rd as it's 3 balls and no strikes to Flores. Michael Conforto, who homered on Tuesday night, waits on deck. That last pitch in there at 95 miles an hour. The fastball averaged 96.6 last time out for Alcantara.
Let's give you a look at the speed range so far. I have 98. Of course, that's the fastball. The low 86. That will be the slider. It's definitely one of his put away pitches.
The 3-2 is chopped to Anderson, who makes the play. So of all the spots on the infield, probably the last place Flores would have wanted to hit that, and it works out well for the Marlins.
No doubt. Nimmo, no place to go. You can't even fake it. You can't even bluff. One big hop to Anderson, and Nimmo's got to scurry back to third base. Strong throw across the diamond, easily gets Flores. This is perfect. Back-to-back sinkers in on the hands of Flores. Flores on his way out of the box, clearly frustrated. He was working ahead, but unable to come through. Nice job by Sandy.
So can he work around the leadoff double? This is Michael Conforto. Five homers, 11 RBIs in the month of September. He's got 24 homers and 64 ribbies on the season. Nice series to this point, 3 for 8. This one popped up left side. Anderson into foul territory will make the play, and Alcantara gives up the leadoff double but works around it. 1 inning in the books. Around it in the first inning, and to the top of the second we go. I think he's still here from last night. That guy was here last night. Dedicated Marlins fan. Back for another 2 today.
All in this together.
That's right. That is right.
That was the theme last night as we started to sing Kumbaya in the booth.
Appreciate the support all the way up the eastern seaboard. Fantastic. Outside to Brinson, a ball and a strike. Steven Matz worked around a 2-out walk in the first inning by getting the strike out of Anderson to end it. That one at the shins of Brinson. 2-1. Brinson 1 for 7 in the series, but 12 for 33, 6 ribbies, and 4 multi-hit games since being added to the roster. 2-2. Yep. Still here. Still grinding. Love it.
Kudos to every person who did. Mets fans, Marlins fans alike. I'll tell you, 5 hours and 35 minutes of a rain delay, Paul?
I do recall it, yes.
We honestly, we should be shaking hands on the way out with everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for staying.
Yes.
In fact, I believe the Mets done a ticket promotion. Breaking ball for strike 3 with Lewis Brinson. Anybody who was in the ballpark last night and has a ticket can come back on the homestand. Oh, by the way, kind of pair this with David Wright being activated, which I find very interesting. Can come back and get a ticket on the final homestand and come to another ballgame. You come for 5.5 hours of a rain delay, you get to see 2.
Yeah, that was. This is just again a credit to the fans. A ball and no strikes to Peter O'Brien was that it was raining a little, and there was certainly a questionable forecast yesterday. Leading up to the game, certainly through the game. That's why the tarp was on the field. We were awaiting that cell to come through. And it didn't seem like a lot of people left.
Right.
That was the thing. It wasn't like, oh, it was a packed house. I mean, it was kind of a yucky day, and school's back in, so crowds, generally speaking, across baseball, a little bit smaller these days. As O'Brien sends one out to deep right center field, away back and gone.
There you go.
For Peter O'Brien. His first in a Marlins uniform, and it gives Miami a 1-0 lead.
That certainly is a pretty swing, and that is the power that everybody has been talking about. Now, I did see it in Pittsburgh during batting practice. In fact, I think I said it to you at the time. Might have even been on air. You're talking about how much power he showed in batting practice going to right and right center field. This ball just continued to carry all the way out to right. Great swing, able to find that barrel. Now, 16 of the 23 home runs that Mats has allowed have been at Citi Field. Take another look. Elevated fastball, outer third. Well, good swing. That's called executing a game plan. You see how his eyes were kind of running right down the barrel. It tells you that's where he was looking. And there's no hint of pulling off this baseball. He's thinking away and going away. That is some big-time power.
So 1-0 Marlins on the Peter O'Brien home run. Hialeah kid went to the University of Miami, his first homer in a Marlins uniform. And now Isaac Galloway lifts one to deep left field, and that one is gone into the second deck. Back-to-back home runs for O'Brien and Galloway, 2-0.
My goodness. Isaac, wow. This is impressive. Upper deck. Let's take another look. I know it's an off-speed pitch, and I know it's down. Was that a bad slider or maybe a changeup? You see the reaction from Mats instantaneously. Galloway clearly sees it out of his hand because he was all over this ball. This is what? Right off the top of the second deck. That is a long, long way.
Just dropped the bat head on that one. Gave it a ride. Clank.
That's kind of the clank you were referring to last night, wasn't
it? Right, right. Both homers. Slowly rolled out to second, and Ortega out by a step for out number 2. 407 off the bat for Galloway as he goes back-to-back with O'Brien. And a 2-0 lead for Miami.
I should have kept the theme moving along. All right. 17 of the 24 home runs he's allowed this season are at Citi Field. There you go. It's the 4th time Marlins have gone back-to-back in 2018.
So a couple of runs of support for Sandy Alcantara. He's down on the count 0-2. Bunts through that one to end the inning. 3rd strikeout of the day for Mats, but 2 homers for the Marlins. homers. Back-to-back home runs. O'Brien and then Galloway off of Steven Matz. Take a closer look. StatCast AI powered by AWS.
I'll tell you, two things stand out here. Listen, the distance, whatever, 387. Of course, he's going to right field. That's not what I get excited about. I love 109. I mean, 108.7 miles an hour. And how about that launch angle of 40 degrees? Now, this, a little bit different. Not as hard off the bat, but goes much farther. You see kind of how the baseball pulls side, 408 feet, second deck, and not quite as much launch angle. Pretty excited, up and dancing.
I would be too. Back-to-back homers for just the 4th time this season for the Marlins. And a 2-0 lead for Sandy Alcantara. Todd Frazier, Austin Jackson, Kevin Plawecki due up. Right back to the backstop. Hey, look out. Caught Tom Hallion, the crew chief, home plate umpire, on the ricochet there. 17 homers, 57 ribbies this year for Todd Frazier. 0-2. Tom Hallion behind the plate. Shane Livensparger over at first. Dan Bellino, the umpire, at second, and Adam Hamari is over at third. We did get an update on Austin Dean. Late scratch, dealing with some nausea. So that's why he's out of the lineup as Frazier pops one to O'Brien.
Lock in the all-new Miami Marlins membership. It all starts here for the 2019 season with new rewards and experiences. Access to exclusive off-season member events, one-of-a-kind memorabilia, and a chance to swing for your seats at Marlins Park. Roll by September 14th to secure bonus savings and incentives at marlinsenrollment.com.
Austin Jackson takes a called strike. Oh for 2 in the series, couple of walks. And out to center for Brinson in his tracks, makes the play. Don Mattingly said after Alcantara's last start, again, it was a 7+ innings, dominant. Marlins held on for a 2-1 win that day against the Phillies. He said, to me, what you see tonight is a guy that you let develop. Now, as we mentioned in the open, to sit here and say that he is going to be the ace of this staff for the next 15 years, listen, that would be great, right? But again, he's got to continue to get better. And hopefully for Juan Nieves and the rest of this coaching staff, that outing last time becomes almost more the floor, that he begins to grow and continues to grow.
And I think what fans, hopefully that saw his last start, would say to themselves, much like I'm saying out loud, he could become the ace of the staff.
Absolutely.
That's the information that came out of the last start. Of course, it's all about, you know, making a start every 5th day, putting, your game plans together, executing, seeing. I mean, there's so many check marks early on in a player's career. But what we saw in the last start lends itself to that idea or even that vision. You start to think, love to see him in the rotation next year. I'd like to see him pitching out of the 1 or 2 spot in the rotation next year. You know, sometimes, that's me getting a little too excited, but you know what I mean, right? That's the type of start it was. We've already had some glimpses of it already in today's ball game. I mean, think about the Flores at bat. Fell behind 3-1, made 2 really big pitches in on his hands, got a huge out with a runner on third, the infield in, and then it ultimately gets out of the inning. We call big pitches big spots. That's one right there.
A walk to Plawecki. That'll bring up Steven Matz. First walk of the afternoon for Alcantara. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Miami Marlins and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Miami Marlins. Plawecki off of first as Matz steps in, swings at the first pitch, and has tied this game. So he gives up home runs And he hits home runs in this ballpark. His first of the year. It's 2-2.
I don't think anybody in the ballpark saw that coming. Boy, oh boy, did Steven Matz put one pretty good swing on the first fastball he saw today, even from Sandy. Well, Sandy thought he was going to groove one to Matz, and that maybe Matz would square around, or just kind of get that. I'm going to throw you, get me over 95-mile-an-hour fastball, because it does split the plate, little arm side run, but up. Matz. Yeah, there's no bunting there. No hint of it. Just a tie ball game.
So a 2-run shot for Matz, the equalizer. And back to check that. The number 9 hitter is Reinheimer.
Check that. We get 2 outs in the inning. That's why I wasn't bunting.
First career home run for Steven Matz. Has even things up. That is a called strike 3. The animated Tom Hallion rings him up. 2-2 through 2. As we check in with Jessica Blaylock.
Hey, Paul, we could not miss this guy right here. This is Justino. He is rocking that bright orange Marlins cap and bright orange Marlins shirt. And we've got to give him some props because he is hung in there along with us, so we had to come and say hi to him. Now, Justino, you were telling me you're from the New York area. How are you a Marlins fan?
Well, I've been watching a lot of Marlins games ever since when Adeiny Echeverria was on the team. I love the way he played, really got me into the team. He's not on the team anymore. I get to see him in Stanton over in the Bronx sometimes, but now I really, Echeverria, he was the reason I became a Marlins fan, started following him for a while.
Now that Etch is no longer with the team, like you mentioned, who is your favorite Marlin?
Oh man, Lewis Brinson. That's deep. Lewis Brinson now is the future of the team. Really excited to see. It's going to be, tough for a couple of years, but really excited to see where this team can be, 3-4 years. And Lewis Brinson, he's going to be the one leading the charge.
Yeah, we agree with you. We love Lou. So we decided that since you have been so great and waiting out these games, we wanted to give you a little something to take home with you. So here is a baseball, and our good friend Brian Holiday even signed it for you. How cool is that? There you go.
Thank you so much. Go Marlins.
Go Marlins. Paul, back to you.
Awesome. Jessica, thanks for tracking him down. That was great. Fantastic. And thanks for hanging out, too. Big Marlins fan. Gets to see 3 games in a couple of days. Probably was here for all 4 if we didn't check in with him on Tuesday. But awesome. Awesome stuff. Starlin Castro takes the ball low and in, 1-1. Castro a ground out to second base back in the first inning. And a called strike 2. Off the end of the bat to second base, Flores makes the play. 2 down.
Hey, Marlins fans, now you can stream games live on your mobile device with Fox Sports Go, presented by Coors Light. Download the app and take Fox Sports Florida and Marlins baseball wherever you go.
2 outs for JT Realmuto in a 2-2 ball game. Steven Matz with a 2-run home run to tie things up. 3 homers in this game, one by Peter O'Brien, one Isaac Galloway, and then the 2-run shot by Steven Matz. First homer by a Mets pitcher since Seth Lugo last July, as JT swings through that first pitch. The other JT, or another JT Riddle, will join us in the bottom of this 3rd inning, going over his questions and his ad-libs with Yadiel Rivera right now. Here's what they're going to ask you. What's it like playing short, hitting home runs every time you pinch hit?
You think that's what they're doing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's got to be. What else could they possibly be talking about?
I don't know anything else.
Up to center. Austin Jackson makes the play, and a 1-2-3 third. Well, we'll ask some real hard-hitting questions to JT Riddle when we come back. First game of a doubleheader here at Citi Field. Let's check in with JT Riddle downstairs. JT, thanks a lot for taking the time. How you doing today?
Doing well. You know,
Are you well? Are you well rested after yesterday, or what?
You know, I got a good night's sleep. I'm, ready to go. Got a doubleheader here today, and hopefully get back to a normal schedule starting tomorrow.
JT, how did the players deal with yesterday and that rain delay? I mean, everybody's asking me how. What do players do? I said, well, listen, we'll ask JT. He'll give you a better answer. What'd you do for 5.5 hours?
Finished up a few crossword puzzles.
About 10,
3 or 4 of them. But yeah, it's one of those days in baseball that aren't very fun, sitting there for 5-6 hours waiting to play a baseball game.
Is it hard to get your adrenaline up for the game when it finally does start at 9:45? I kind of alluded to it. You show up to the ballpark and get a room. I even mentioned that you guys took batting practice yesterday. You kind of get into the game, you get into the situation, all of a sudden you go on to shutdown for a while. Hard to get the adrenaline up?
It can be, yes, but at the same time you sit there for so long, you're 2 or 3 Red Bulls in, so those kind of help throughout the day, your coffee's in your Red Bull, but it does take a little toll on you when you sit there for so long. And
well, you've got
I'm getting pampered down here.
Exactly.
I'm getting pampered down here.
Great. It's funny that you say all the coffee's in the Red Bulls when you started the interview by saying I got a good night's sleep. Surprised you were able to get like more than 15 minutes of sleep with that amount of caffeine running through your veins.
It is tough, but those long days here, you go back, and by the time you hit that bed, you're ready to shut your eyes and
all right,
go to sleep.
JT, you have somehow mastered the art. Now, you've done this as impressive as anybody I've seen this season. you kind of lull us to sleep every now and again. In fact, well, hey, listen, JT's coming back. His wrist's feeling a little bit better. And then all of a sudden, the first swing you hit the other night, you hit a ball into the upper deck. And then you follow that up with a laser into center field. I mean, this is, I don't want to say it's surprising. We certainly know that it's in you, and we've seen you do it this season. But sometimes you kind of jump right back in, and all of a sudden you just take off, and you're maybe the best hitter on the field, at least for some of these games that we've seen this season, where you just lock it right back in. How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, you just stay with the approach that you've been working on. Even you're not out there for a few days, you're still working in the cage. You're still getting your work in as best as you can. Whether if you're not playing in the game, you look at it as maybe some fresh legs too, kind of get involved and just kind of reset your mind after getting a few days rest and healing up the body a little bit. So it's always nice to come out and be fresh. And you never want to get hurt and go on the DL and things like that. But you just got to still working on stuff even though you're not playing every day.
Speaking of the DL, and I hate to potentially end this interview on a sour note, but the last calendar year or so for you, how would you assess it, injury-wise, wins and losses-wise, kind of all encompassing?
It's been a long one, that's for sure. Starting with the shoulder injury last year, it's definitely been a long road to recovery. I didn't really get to do much in the off season, and it's just been a long road, up and down, but you just got to stay positive and stay with everything, and that's kind of the thing. So,
and not a long road, an 8-pitch inning. So quick one for you.
It was quick.
Rest
Sandy's
up.
looking good.
We'll see you in game 2.
All right, thanks for having me.
All right, JT Riddle, thanks so much. 2-2, end of 3. Thanks to JT Riddle for hanging out with us for a half inning in game 1. Coming up in game 2, we will have in the bottom of the 3rd inning one of the hitting coaches, Frank Menachino, is not far from home. Staten Island guy.
Staten Island's own Frank Menachino. Just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it?
That's right, absolutely. It will be.
There's Frankie.
The Staten Island accent will be full-fledged.
Love it.
Love it is right.
He's done a fantastic job this year. I know a lot of people, you look at what last year was, or maybe even kind of trying to tell the story of this year. And for Frankie, the job hasn't changed. He's got a lot of younger bodies, a lot of guys that he's working with, helping to get going. JT Riddle being one of them. There have been some definite positives that have really come out of this season. Tell you what, I know Frank works tirelessly. Hardest worker, listen, and I may not know the other coaches nearly as much, in terms of when they show up for work, but I know that every hour I've been at Marlins Park or really at the ballpark, that Frank Menachino's in the building somewhere working with somebody on their swing.
Tell you what, he's never on the second bus that we're on.
I've not seen him one time.
2-2 to Brian Anderson, then Lewis Brinson and Peter O'Brien here in the 4th inning. Just got a piece, still 2-2. And I think that you could certainly extend the work ethic of this coaching staff beyond Frank Menachino. They have all done a terrific job because there have been a lot of youngsters that have come through here, some that are still on the roster, some that may not be on this roster with the club currently right now. And there have been an awful lot of, as we say, teachable moments for this young group as Anderson flies out for the first out.
Whether you're from Dade or Broward, speak English or Spanish, your voice counts. Marlins are committed to elevating your experience at the ballpark. Share your feedback online or at the ballpark and enter to win prizes throughout the next homestand. Visit marlins.com/DMILO to get started.
Here's Brinson. Inside. Lewis Brinson, Justino's favorite player. Had a chance to talk with that Marlins fan hanging out. Cheering on Brinson's got to like the adjustments that Brinson has made since coming back. Certainly to some it may not seem like much, but the average is over 200 now off the interstate, as they say, into the 200s. Been a long road to get there for Brinson. Certainly the hits in the games, but the work with the aforementioned Frank Menachino and Pags as Brinson grounds out for the second out.
It's easy to beat the heat when you become an energy-saving expert. Go to fpl.com/beattheheat.
Two down now for Peter O'Brien, who hit his first Marlins home run out to right center field back in inning number 2. Takes a called strike. Back to the second we go.
Well, you'll see the extension through this swing and the mind at work for O'Brien, and this is impressive. This is a fastball away. You can tell just by the approach in the swing what he was thinking the entire at bat. He was going to go the other way. Drove it out of the ballpark. Marlins on the scoreboard.
Little high, 2-1. This go around with the Marlins. Second or back in the big leagues, I should say, for O'Brien. We saw O'Brien and Galloway going back 4th time this season. This one out to left field for Conforto. 3.5. 2-2. on Fox Sports Florida is brought to you by Southwest. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. And by Simply Healthcare, live the Simply life. Overcast, but still a much better day today than we had Monday or yesterday. As we, after this one, say goodbye to New York City, at least for a couple of weeks. Be back here for the final series of the 2018 regular season. Jeff Brigham and Justin Vargas. Jason Vargas, by the way.
Is that the sun shining off a building?
Yes. Yeah.
What in the world is going on?
Kind of sort of breaking through. Don't get too excited.
It's only a reflection anyway.
Just a reflection, and it's probably going to be back behind the clouds.
We haven't seen
momentarily.
It's our second trip to New York. I don't think we've seen the sun once. April, we didn't see it, and we certainly haven't seen it over the last 4 days.
No, we have not. But we still believe it does exist somewhere.
Well, it's always sunny in Philadelphia.
You know what? That's a good point. We will test that theory when we arrive at about 2:30 in the morning. Roll up to first base for O'Brien, and Conforto is retired. Two-run home run by Steven Matz has tied things up. Marlins had the two solo home runs, I should say. O'Brien and Galloway, and then in the bottom of that inning, Matz answered right back. So 2-2 our score with one out in the bottom of the fourth. Glad that you're with us for the opener of this doubleheader, and in advance, thank you for sticking with us throughout the night here in Queens. Todd Frazier will pop up to O'Brien back in the second inning. 1-0 pitch is called for ball 2. Well, the plate on Frazier the other night was maybe a little wide, and that's why he was not thrilled with the strike zone the other night. Was ejected midway through the game on Tuesday. That pitch looked to be pretty close. So that's just a veteran working the umpires, maybe. I don't know. Maybe throwing it out there. Throw it against the wall.
He did mention wanting to, he's battling for DeGrom in some way. I certainly understood it. I certainly understand his frustration. Ball 4 right there. Here you go. This is the other night.
And then in between innings, he gone.
I have a theory on this, and I probably shouldn't say it, but now I can't stop myself. I want to say it so bad.
Go ahead.
See, this is what baseball does to you. Do you remember the catch he didn't make down the right field line? I believe it was against the Dodgers when he went into the stands and he pulled the ball out and the whole thing that went down. Yeah, it's baseball's way, right?
The baseball gods, you're saying. Interesting.
When I saw those strikes,
out in the universe,
hey, listen, I saw those balls off that outside corner there. I kept thinking, we've had a couple of reminders. I mean, I was kind of commenting, in the break, we had the home run yesterday from Bruce, right? The one that went out.
Right.
And I said to you, you can't really, trick the umpires any longer with, catches or outfielders, that little short hop. Sometimes you come in. We've got instant replay. We've got cameras all over the ballpark. Well, what we learned, I think it was last week or a couple of weeks ago, is that there's like the one way that you might be able to pull it off if you can is leave the field of play.
Right. And that's what happened.
Baseball got him back the other night. There you go.
Yeah. For those that might have missed it, the Mets were in L.A. Frazier was playing third. There's a pop-up right into that first row of seats as Frazier is off with the pitch. Throw down to second is in time. And Frazier caught stealing. So the universe continues to even itself out.
Shouldn't have done it. Yeah, look how fast JT is. Even on one bounce, still more than enough time to get Todd Frazier at second base. Starlin Castro essentially waiting for him. Not get much of a jump. Throw by JT right on line.
Marlins' best caught stealing percentage in baseball. Now the 1-2 pitch to Jackson is a little low. So yeah, they're in L.A. Foul ball goes into the front row. He kind of leans over. There was a baseball. I don't know if it was a plastic ball or what. It was a fake baseball. It looked like a baseball. Just sitting there. Frazier goes toppling into the dugout. The game ball gets lost up in the whole thing. He grabs the other ball that had fallen and says, "I got it. I got it. You're out." The umpire says, "You got it." That's that. Tell Austin Jackson's out with the game ball from Alcantara. Time for This Day in Marlins History, presented to you by Geico. In 2016, there's a few different ones here. Ichiro, 15th player to record 900 multi-hit games. And in 2009, the first player with 200 hits in 9 straight seasons.
Absolutely amazing career.
Which may or may not be done. Shh, don't say anything. Because the Mariners start in Japan next year.
He is, I got to know Ichiro a little bit last year. I mean, my goodness, the level of dedication that he put out there last year, even knowing the role that he was in. You know, I'll sum up last year. I mean, he basically had 100 pinch hit appearances, didn't get many starts. I mean, as every Marlins fan knows, one of the best outfields in baseball, crowded, nobody missed a game.
Right.
Didn't get there were no starts to go around for him. He kind of followed, so all he really got to do was pinch hit. He was at the ballpark at 2 o'clock every day doing the exact same routine that he did through everything that we just showed you. The multi-hit games, the 9 straight season of 200 hits. I mean, all of that, same routine. First guy to the park every day.
Yeah, it truly was. And I only saw it from afar and heard stories about it, but I don't even know if creature of habit is the right moniker for him.
It's obsessed to be great, I guess is the way I think of it. And
I think you could easily make a case that big league career, which was terrific as well, as Galloway works the leadoff walk here in the 5th. But just in terms of guys that have played baseball at its highest level, and he, of course, had a great career in Japan before coming to the United States, maybe one of the greatest hitters this game has ever seen. Second walk issued by Matz, and a runner aboard for Rafael Ortega.
Rafael thrust into action this afternoon. Originally in the starting lineup. Dean had to come out. He was dealing with some nausea, I believe.
That's correct.
So Ortega inserted in to the lineup.
And I think he just wanted to debut those kicks. Some good-looking spikes. Kind of like a faded color on the sides. Marlins-ish orange in there. Nice. You a shoe guy? Kind of, sort of? Were you?
I definitely was when I was much younger. When I played, absolutely not, because it just that was never a conversation to be had. There were no shoe guys when I played. you wore your standard issued shoes. Now, if you were a superstar in our sport at the time, you had plenty of them, but you didn't have, 9 different pairs of your own shoe.
Right. On the ground, Reinheimer, Flores, and Bruce.
We'll take another quick look. Hopper, an easy turn for the Mets. Reinheimer able to start the double play and Flores finish it.
That's something the Mets don't do very often. They started the day 25th in baseball in double plays turned. Now maybe that's because some of this pitching staff doesn't allow many base runners.
There's a lot of ways. You know, that's kind of that fun with numbers conversation that you and I like to have every now and again.
Right. Jacob deGrom hasn't given up a base runner in the last 19 starts. Okay, well, not going to turn a lot of double plays that way. Ball and 2 strikes to Alcantara, who struck out to end the second. He does the same in the 5th. 2-2 as we go to the home half here in Queens.
Play a split doubleheader or a straight doubleheader like today. Here is Don Mattingly on which one he prefers.
I actually like the straight. It's probably easier on everybody, I think, to just keep going. That sitting around in between is, to me, not great. But you understand what happens with gates and all that kind of stuff. So I'd prefer probably going straight.
I'm with Don Mattingly. I will take the straight doubleheader any day. So, guys, buckle your seatbelts. We've got a lot of baseball still left to play.
That's right, Jessica. Thanks so much. Yeah, I'm also assuming with Don Mattingly, if you're going to be at the ballpark for 13 hours, play 2 games.
That's a good point.
But
I can't really argue that.
Yeah, not the case.
That's like taking a vote on, hey, do you guys like 5.5-hour rain delays? Raise your hand.
Asking for a friend.
That's right.
Kevin Plawecki, Steven Matz, and Jack Reinheimer.
I felt really bad. I felt really bad for the grounds crew last night because they came out on the field, and I think people were mildly excited that they were going to take it off, but they were actually getting booed as well because they were getting blamed for the delay.
Well, it was amazing. They came out, and I'm sure they were under just making a joke, really. I'm sure that they were waiting on a certain time or a certain go-ahead from a boss or something, but it's like they came out, everybody cheers them, and then looking up at the big board as if they're watching the last few minutes of Seinfeld. And then it was like, no, there's no action. Pull the tarp or don't pull the tarp.
A lot of misleading information yesterday. I think that's where we.
There was. And a lot of
everybody was trying to read body language.
Yeah.
It just wasn't working.
And we ate a lot of cookies. Get that sugar rush that JT Riddle was talking about. The coffee.
Most places close after midnight.
Well, not in New York. They don't. Again, grounded foul, still 1-2. South Florida Honda dealers present Marlins Live, the pregame show tomorrow. Craig Minervini, Tommy Hutton, and Gabby Sanchez in studio. We'll move to Philadelphia at the conclusion of this one. Wei Yin Chen, Zach Eflin, the two starting pitchers at Citizens Bank Park.
Well, the Marlins have a real opportunity, not to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but to impact the race in the National League East with this series against the Philadelphia Phillies, who are reeling right now. You go in there and make a statement, maybe take 2 or 3. Oof.
I think the Phillies are impacting the race themselves by not winning.
Right, but my point is that
yes.
I still think, the idea that they're, whatever it is, 6-7 games behind Atlanta, that they're kind of right there. They do still play them 7 times in a row. They're looking at the Marlins like, okay, listen, we got to take 3 games against the Marlins, and we know the Marlins have done a nice job this season, at least in some of these series, fighting back and kind of staking some claim. They've had some nice big wins this year. I know, right around 30 games under 500. Seems like I shouldn't be wandering in that direction, but I do know you know what I'm talking about.
I understand completely what you're talking about. There have been
those moment games where you're like, okay, this is a big game for the Washington Nationals. Right. Guess who showed up and handled the Washington Nationals in a series about a month ago?
Yeah. Steven Matz takes a called strike. Matz a 2-run home run in his first at bat back in the 2nd inning. So he's 1 for 1 today with a home run. And it was a no-doubter to left.
Yeah, and this is quite surprising. I mean, through 2.5 games of what we've seen from Sandy Alcantara this season, and most of it being absolutely outstanding. This fly ball into center field. He sprints in quickly underneath it. Fair to say that Steven Matz has hit the hardest ball against Sandy this season?
I think you're right.
I don't think there's been another ball that's been hit harder.
No, it jumped all over it. 95 inside corner and
right.
Just gave it a ride.
I'm a bit surprised that I'm saying that out loud, but I think it's true.
Well, all 3 starters for the Mets, pitchers that is, have had a good series with the bat. Reinheimer takes a strike. Again, Matz the home run today. Wheeler had a couple of hits yesterday. DeGrom, of course, had a hit on Tuesday.
He's got a 3-game hitting streak.
Pitch number 65. Misses low. Pretty solid job controlling the pitch count in his first road start. Reinheimer figures to, and has, but figures to fill a utility role for this New York Mets team in the last few weeks. 327 hitter at Las Vegas, AAA this year. To center, Brinson. 5 innings in game 1 in the books. 2-2. Craig, thanks so much. As Steven Matt's first pitch to Miguel Rojas is in there for a called strike. Rojas, Castro, and Real Muto here in the 6th. This will be pitch number 80 for Steven Matz. Little high, 1-1. Couple of fly balls today for Miggy. Starting at shortstop for game 1. Certainly haven't seen the lineup for game 2, but imagine perhaps JT Riddle over there at short tonight. There's a strike.
I bet most Marlins fans wouldn't know this. A little conversation with JT Riddle. Obviously 9 home runs on the season. You and I were kind of checking this one out the other day. The Marlins shortstop position has turned in 16 bombs this year.
Yeah.
It's an impressive number. It's actually 7th in the National League. I don't think many fans would probably guess that.
No. Spreading the wealth a little bit. Certainly a career year for Miguel Rojas. In terms of the home runs with 10.
Now that Justin Bour is gone, I believe it is the second position on the field next to obviously Real Muto for home runs, for power for the Marlins this season.
Back to Matz. Picks it and over to Bruce for the first out in the 6th. Time for the Chevrolet Prospect Spotlight. And today we focus in on Manuel Rodriguez. Batavia and Greensboro this year, 2.13 ERA in 30 games and 4 starts. A New York Penn League All-Star. Signed by the Marlins as a free agent in 2014.
A fantastic season. Congratulations to that All-Star nod that he earned.
Couple of hops to Frazier. And Castro is retired. Two down now for JT Real Muto. JT walked in the 1st, flew out in the 3rd. 2 hits for the Marlins this afternoon. The back-to-back home runs, Peter O'Brien and Isaac Galloway in the 2nd inning. 2 hits for the Mets today. And 2 games in the city that is named twice. Do you get the symmetry here?
Yeah.
Are you fazed by it at all?
No, not. Sat through a 5.5-hour rain delay last night.
Sandy's wearing number 22.
Hey,
do
man,
anything for you?
I'm with you. I'm. Should probably wait the 2nd game.
No guarantee there would be 2 runs and 2 hits for both teams. Real Muto out to right center field, and Austin Jackson has room to make the play. Another 1-2-3 inning for Matz. Inside look, little Marlins history for you. Pitchers allowing 1 run or less in their first 2 career starts with the Marlins. And look who is on that list. 3 guys from this year. Harlan Garcia, Eliezer Hernandez, and Sandy Alcantara. Of course, Alex Sanabia back in 2010. And Harlan Garcia extended that streak to 3 games. But Alcantara has been pitching well again today. Just the 2-run home run after the walk. And that has been it. I'm sure Juan Nieves, Don Mattingly happy with what they've seen yet again from Sandy Alcantara.
Absolutely, but I'm going to take a quick moment and recognize Tommy Phelps, who was also on that list. Big part of what we accomplished in 03. He came up, made some big starts. Chopper up the middle. Backhand by Castro, out number 1 here in the 6th. Came up, made some starts, kind of filled a, you know, I always forget the terminology. I don't want to call him a middle reliever, but he kind of was our guy that floated between the rotation and, say, the middle relief area. He wasn't pitching late in the ball game.
Swing guy?
Yeah, maybe that's the word I'm thinking of. But, you know, the idea of he did whatever really the team needed for him to do and was just a huge part, probably one of the more unsung heroes of that team. Big starts, big innings down the stretch, kind of one of the key lefties out of the bullpen, got us some big outs late. Interestingly enough, as we showed you on the big board there, that got off to a great start with the Marlins in 03.
Jay Bruce fouls it off. 0-2 to the Mets first baseman. Nice play in the second deck by a Mets fan. Couple of ground outs today for Bruce. All right. 1 and 2.
We've seen that a couple of times today. Ball completely inside the strike zone. Call the ball.
One misses low. Count even. 2 balls and 2 strikes. A leadoff double in the first inning, and the 2-run home run by Matz. The only 2 hits allowed today by Alcantara as he strikes out Bruce for out number 2.
It's easy to beat the heat when you become an energy-saving expert. Go to FPL.com/beattheheat.
That's 4 strikeouts this afternoon for Alcantara. As Wilmer Flores steps in. A couple of ground outs for him. 1 to third, 1 to short. Only the 2 starts, but in his last, Alcantara struck out 6 Philadelphia Phillies in 7 scoreless innings. They'll check over at first, and Shane Livensparger says that was a swing, so it is a ball and 2 strikes now to Wilmer Flores. And a called strike 3. Can't always predict it now, can you? Alcantara will take it 2-2. Back here in Queens, Mets and Marlins. First game of a single admission doubleheader here at Citi Field. Paul Severino, Todd Hollinsworth, and Jessica Blaylock with you. Thanks for starting your Marlins day a little early and staying a little late last night as well. Steven Matz, 89 pitches to this point, as Brian Anderson leads things off here in the top of the 7th. Anderson, Brinson, and O'Brien. Oh for 2 today for Anderson, who fouls this one back and out of play. Oh, I'm sure both managers would like to see their offense score runs, take leads, and make sure this first game goes 9. But they are getting some length out of their starters. Both guys pitching into the 7th inning as Anderson drops one in fair, and it'll hop into the seats for a leadoff double in the 7th.
Let's take another look. Anderson really trying to work down that right field line, staying inside the baseball. You see the frustration from Matz. That goes a ground rule double. I tell you what, he's lucky the ball went into the stands the way that it hit off the ground. I kept thinking, because it bounced over Nimmo's head.
Yeah.
If it gets down into the corner, he might be standing on third base.
Well, Andy will take the leadoff double.
Tell you what, that warning track down there is really, the ground seems to be really, really hard even after all the rain.
Yeah. Worried about the field conditions yesterday. But, yeah, very good drainage here at Citi Field. That double for Anderson is 31st of the season to tie Chris Coughlin for 4th on the Marlins rookie list. Straightens up Brinson.
Yeah, we're starting to get some activity in the Mets bullpen. That's nearing 100 pitches.
That's Drew Smith up in the Mets pen. Again, that point that I was attempting to make before was that double header. I mean, it's late in the season. You got the expanded rosters, but still, you don't want to go through all 95 pitchers that you've got either.
I think that's more you talking than the players talking. Trying to read your body language right now, and I do think it's more you.
Really? You think they want to play a 14-inning first game?
I don't, but I think you're being more open about it.
All right. Two balls and 2 strikes to Brinson.
And you're seeing the 2-strike approach, the one that we've continued to talk about on this road trip. You see him choking up just a little bit and really trying to stay inside the baseball. You say, well, what's he trying to do that for? Well, he's trying to get Brian Anderson over to third base.
Out to center field, racing in is Jackson to make the basket catch. And that is out number 1 here in the 7th.
Thank you, fans. We're celebrating you all weekend long, starting on Thursday, September 20th through Sunday, September 23rd, as the Marlins take on the Reds. It'll be a special surprise for fans each game during the series, from Throwback Thursday to swag bags and more. More information and to get tickets, visit marlins.com/fan appreciation. It is going to be a fun last homestand.
It absolutely will. Certainly check out the website for more details. Florida Lottery call to the bullpen. That's going to do it for Steven Matz. 2-2 in the 7th. 2-2 game, the new Monopoly jackpot scratch-offs from the Florida Lottery are a new spin on a classic. That's 2 nights in a row. I got a frog in my throat trying to read this promo. My goodness. They're loaded with prizes from $10,000 to $2 million, so unleash the excitement anytime. The Florida Lottery, it's your ticket. Must be 18 or older to play. Play responsibly. That'll teach me to snack in the breaks. Jeez.
I will teach you, young Jedi.
I know. You are the best
art of snacking.
Best snacker around. Jeff McNeil takes over at second base. Part of the double switch that lifts Flores and brings in Drew Smith to face Peter O'Brien.
Now, Drew Smith has been throwing the ball pretty well. Righties have had a little bit more success against him, more so than the lefties, that is.
Look at that. Kind of a half swing, and that one could bring home the run. Anderson around third. He will score. And Peter O'Brien, his second RBI of the afternoon.
Yeah, right on cue. I mean, I barely got it out. Now, 2 huge hits in this ball game today. O'Brien both times going the other way. That is a tennis backhand right there. Don't roll the wrists over. Just stay through the ball and release. There you go. He didn't even do that. No top hand release. Line shot into right. I mean that too, by the way. I bet there's some pretty decent exit velocity numbers on that ball. Upper 80s, maybe low 90s.
Efforting.
There we go.
That's what I'm here for. 95 and a half.
All right.
How about that?
Even better.
But most importantly, it breaks the tie and gives the Marlins a 3-2 lead.
What an impressive day he has had. Long home run, first time up against Mats, and drives in the go-ahead run once again. So essentially 2 go-ahead RBIs in this ball game.
And that, the RBI single, is the first single of the game by either club. Of course, only 6 hits, but we've seen 3 home runs, some doubles as Kyle Bearclaw loosens in the Marlins pen. On the ground, Reinheimer, McNeil, and Galloway beats it out to extend the inning. So O'Brien gets the high fives after being erased on the fielder's choice. Ortega at the plate now, and it looked like for a moment that Dietrich was in the on-deck circle, but I believe Sandy Alcantara has gone back out there, so they may try to sneak. Yes, that's him. They are going to try to sneak a 7th inning of work out of him, perhaps.
Or he could just be a decoy. Dietrich is lurking in the dugout. There he is. Camera has found him.
So in your best guess, if the inning ends with Ortega's at bat, we see Sandy for the 7th?
Yes.
Okay. Rip past Bruce and into right field, a base hit. On to third goes Galloway. And Ortega, with that hit, snaps an 0 for 19.
Continues to grind. And they are going to let Sandy hit. Show you that single one more time from Ortega. Great swing, elevated fastball. First 2 times really was trying to stay inside. Matt's got jammed just a bit, but we've seen him a number of times turn around velocity this season. He rips it into right. Now making his way over to third base. Now what this at bat really tells you is that the bottom of the 7th is a little bit more important than the top of the 7th.
Conforto, Frazier, Jackson due up for the Mets.
Your best answer on the mound is currently in the box. That's what that tells you. Marlins have the lead. Sandy's not put up much of a fight today in the batter's box.
Ortega takes second base with no throw. And a stolen base for Ortega gets 2 runners in scoring position.
Stolen base number 5 on the season.
Now can Sandy come through and really help himself? Inside, 2-1. Marlins have been much better in 1-run games this year than the Mets. A little low, 3-1. Marlins a game over 500, 18-17 in 1-run games. The Mets are 12-25 in 1-run games. But Alcantara, an opportunity to, at least for the moment, make that a moot point and perhaps drive in 2. Or take a ball outside and load the bases for Miguel Rojas.
That is absolutely fantastic right there. He was bunting with 2 strikes his first at bat. They have to really take his bat off his shoulders there for his 3rd at bat. Very patient hitter.
No contact afternoon, 2 strikeouts and a walk.
A very patient hitter.
That's right. And pitching coach Dave Island now to talk with Drew Smith.
Well, Smith, not a tremendous amount of work this season. He's thrown the ball pretty well, as we're kind of alluding to, but one area he had struggled with, and in fact it happened right away. O'Brien jumped all over him. Inherited runners and the ability to strand them. He hasn't done a very good job of that. He's now inherited 7 runners, 4 have scored.
So Miguel Rojas 0 for 3 today.
I felt that way at about 5-hour mark of the rain delay.
Right as we were gearing up for another one. The line complete, by the way, on Steven Matz. He goes 6 1/3 this afternoon, 3 hits, 3 runs. They're all earned, a couple of walks and 4 strikeouts. Here's the 1-0 to Rojas. Pops it up, but it'll get into the seats. 1-1. Even 100 pitches, 66 strikes for Steven Matz. Anthony Swarzak up for the Mets. Saw Bearclaw throwing for the Marlins, but Alcantara took the at bat and walked, and figures to get the bottom of the 7th. Low to Rojas, 2-2.
Nice job by Rojas. Smith trying to double up on sliders down out of the zone. Chased the previous pitch, laid off the last one. He's about 1 pitch away from getting something to hit.
Here comes the 2-2 pitch. Fouls it back. Hanging in there, rooting for his club. Hoping for a big hit from Miguel Rojas. And leaping grab by Reinheimer. What a play. Boy, a foot to the right or left, and that might easily bring home 2. What a great play by Reinheimer at short. Still 3-2. Marlins scored 1 in the inning to break the tie. Could have been more if not for the Bonefish Grill fresh catch of the day.
Yeah, ranging well off the ground high to snag this out of the air. Nice at bat by Rojas. Picked on a slider, drove it. My goodness, hit this ball so hard. Timed it just right. See the frustration from Rojas.
That could have really helped to break open the game. My, oh my, that's a heck of a play by Reinheimer. And we'll see Sandy Alcantara pitch into the bottom of the 7th inning. 6 innings to this point. Couple of hits, the leadoff double in the first, and the 2-run home run to the pitcher, Steven Matz. Other than that, has been very good again this afternoon. 5 strikeouts.
I tell you, the efficiency is the one thing that really stands out from one start to the next, right? We talked about that jump from the first start to 5 innings and nearly 100 pitches to how efficient he was last start at nearly 66% strikes thrown in his start. You're seeing that again today. So good to see 5 days later picking right up where he left off. I mean, really just made one mistake to Matz, and honestly, you kind of, it's one of those where you're like, did I not game plan correctly right there? It's the pitcher hitting, right? That's right. The one pitch you'd love to have back.
Conforto swings at the first pitch, grounds it to O'Brien, who flips to Alcantara, and there is one quick out in the 7th. .80 pitches to this point for Alcantara, 6 1/3 in the books.
MLB at Bat is your #1 Marlins app. Customize your experience to catch every moment this season. Get Marlins home screen icons and features such as MLB.tv, Game of the Day, live radio broadcasts, in-game highlights, stats, news, and more. Download MLB at Bat today.
I am looking at the At Bat app right now, only to find that the Colorado Rockies have a 5-1 lead in the bottom of the 5th inning at home against the Diamondbacks. As Frazier takes a called strike, and Trevor Story has hit his 33rd home run.
MVP.
I do not disagree. I think for now, for me, it's between he and Javier Baez. Probably the 2 front runners.
Yeah. This is what happens typically in these races. Momentum in September matters, and I think that he has got it right now. Especially the way the Rockies are playing at home. They've got that sense of what year was it when they played Boston and they
07.
07, right, when they ran out, what were they, 21-1 or whatever it was at home in the month of September as they made their way to the postseason.
I think they won 20 straight games going into the World Series. Yeah.
Hottest team on the planet.
Yep.
Playing great baseball, just fantastic baseball. Everything going right, and I've got that sense once again.
Inside to Frazier, 2-2. Yeah, Story is 2 for 3 today. Has a home run, his 33rd. He's hitting .293 on the year, and the 2 ribbies has him up to 102 on the year. And on the hands, grounded to Castro, who was on the left side of the infield. 2 away. Now Austin Jackson with 2 outs. There's a called strike. Jackson today is 0 for 2, a fly out and a strikeout. Well, not to be outdone, Trevor Story's teammate Nolan Arenado, a home run today, his 34th. And with the run driven in, he's got 100. So that is 4 straight 3,100 seasons for Nolan Arenado.
Yeah, he's pretty good too.
He is
quite a tandem they've got going there now, don't they?
Pretty good.
The Rockies are known for coming up with tandems, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
All started with the Blake Street Bombers, and since then you've got to have a superhero and a sidekick, it seems like.
That's right. That's right. Although with Arenado and Story, both guys are the Batman.
Yes, that's correct. Right. I'm not really tipping my hand to one or the other. It's just, you know, the union.
The Batman.
Yeah, I got you.
I think he's using the Batman.
Yeah, I know, but
yeah,
we were talking about both of them, and I didn't want to disrespect Arenado.
Well, I'm just saying, didn't it have to be like the ones that Robin? It was like whatever.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, pal.
It's not 3-2. Did you see? It's not 2-2 anymore.
It's okay, man. I'm with you, man.
Come on.
I'm with you. Symmetry.
See, now it's 3-2 count in a 3-2 game, so we're getting there. You know?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. You try to get in the mind of the hitters. Sometimes you got to try to get in my mind too.
Oh, well,
maybe that's not the best idea.
Big old lock on that thing.
Yeah, rightfully so. All right, Sandy Alcantara through 7 strong innings. He's got the lead. Maybe we'll see him into the 8th as well. Telling Craig to say something nice about our call. Excellent work. Craig, thanks so much. Speaking of home runs, T-Mobile built for baseball. Here it is, Nolan Arenado with a majestic drive down the left field line at Coors Field. Not a cheapie at all. And then Trevor Story connecting. I think he knew it was gone. He's hit a few of those to a very similar spot. Got all of it. Both of those guys have been getting all of it for a while, and the Rockies at the moment are a game and a half up on the Dodgers in the National League West as Anthony Swarzak takes over.
Swarzak, 6.14 ERA on the season, pitching in his now 23rd inning of work, 24th game.
Nothing in 2 to Starlin Castro, takes outside. Castro 0 for 3 today. 3 groundouts. And a called strike 3. Castro down looking to begin the 8th.
And dials up the outside corner. .94 miles an hour.
Oh, 1 to JT Realmuto, a walk back in the first inning. A couple of flyouts for JT. Six and a third from Matz, 2/3 of an inning from Drew Smith. And now Swarzak, the third Mets pitcher of the afternoon. He fouls it right back toward us. I'm guessing Geffner caught it.
Maybe. But only if the windows are open.
It's a refreshing day. They probably are. 1 and 2. Talked a little bit about that tight National League West. Colorado up a game and a half on the Dodgers. At the moment, 3.5 on Arizona. If that score holds, then it get, of course, 4.5 games. But the National League Central, with a win last night, the Brewers taking 2 out of 3 at Wrigley from the Chicago Cubs. So Chicago 1 up on Milwaukee, 3.5 up on St. Louis.
And Anthony Rizzo was so angry that he decided to wear his uniform on the plane to D.C.
That's right. Yeah, that makeup game that they're actually playing right now, 1-1 in the 4th. But yeah, he got on the plane, full uni, ready to roll.
I don't think that it was as much a protest against the Brewers series as it was the Nats makeup game. I think that's where he was maybe kind of trying to create a little dig, if you will.
Right, right. This one fouled away again and into the seats.
You know, Swarzak not giving in, and JT certainly not as well. Kind of challenging him up, out across the plate, outer third, a little bit off. I've seen a few fastballs up there throughout this series against JT. It was only his last homestand. We saw him take that pitch a number of times and drive it to right center field, including a long home run at Marlins Park. Let's see if he goes there once again. Back to the slider, but definitely trying to stay away from JT's power.
Again, it'll be a 2-ball, 2-strike pitch from Swarzak to Real Muto. Doesn't chase that one, and it's full. Brian Anderson on deck. Had a double and scored a run his last time up. Payoff pitch is low and away for ball 4.
That's an impressive at bat from JT Real Muto. My goodness.
Very close. Almost as close as the playoff picture in the National League. The Braves at the moment taking care of their business while the Phillies struggle for wins. Central's fun. West is fun. Wild card's fun. Nice.
Yeah, two teams, or a few teams, I should say, kind of on the outside or maybe on the outer part of that bubble, maybe at the All-Star break, kind of, you know, the National League there certainly had its zest to it. I think the battle in the Central was certainly there, but there's been a few wild card teams. I guess the one I continue to think about is the St. Louis Cardinals have just made this incredible push, getting themselves back into the conversation as well.
It's interesting, and I would love to get your take. A ball and no strikes here on Brian Anderson. You want to go into the postseason playing good baseball. You want to feel like you've been playing playoff style games for a while as a little run up as Anderson lines one out to left field. But in the case of the St. Louis Cardinals, like, they've fought back. They've made a managerial change. They've fought back for so long that, do you fear them maybe having peaked too soon in a sense to get back to playoff competitiveness?
Well, basically what you're asking is, can the run that they've been on be sustained for as long as you need for it to be to go into the postseason, to the World Series, or wherever you want to take it? Meaning it's got a long way to go, and they've had to do it in order to get back into it. You know, I look at the St. Louis Cardinals, and I think, yes, I do think it's sustainable. You know, you've got the high from what you're accomplishing. You've got good leadership on that team. You know, by the way, some of that leadership has changed going all the way to the top, talking about that manager's position. But the idea is that you're not necessarily just leaning on a few guys to carry it. I think it was just a couple of games ago we were talking about, I think, in the Pittsburgh series. In the Pittsburgh Pirates, if a guy actually got the best record against the Central in the Central. And I just find it interesting. You know, you were talking about how some guys carry you all season long. I look at the Cardinals and think, yeah, they can turn off their heroes every now and again. They've got a few guys. Marcell Ozuna starting to heat up. He's been big for them down the stretch, starting to hit home runs. Carpenter has absolutely been the story all season long, but guys are kind of affecting that team. Bader and different guys are coming in and having moments, and when you've got that level of depth, I can't argue against it. I mean, it's kind of the script we had in 03.
Yeah.
And we had a different hero every day. I mean, that's kind of what our mindset was. I mean, Pudge had his moments. D-Lee would have his moments. Encarnacion, Cone. I mean, everybody kind of had a thing where it was like, oh, yeah, you know, almost like taking turns.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals have a little bit of that. And here's the thing. There's really no chance for them to let up. And that's the other thing that you always worry about, are those games or that series where you say, oh, well, maybe we could let up in that series because it's a team that we're supposed to handle. Well, they're not really in the position to get back any games. We maintained that edge that long. We really did in 03. I mean, we knew it. We ended up having to play the way that we played all the way down to the Saturday before the last game of the season, when we finally said, all right, we're in.
In the dirt to Brinson, 3-2. Yeah, they've got, this is the Cardinals. The Dodgers starting today. So Dodgers for 4, then the Braves for 3, then the Giants, then the Brewers, then the Cubs. So you're absolutely right. There is no chance for them to take a breather against a sub-500 team that might be out of the playoff picture. Yes, you know, the Giants are certainly struggling. I don't think they have a win yet in September.
Right.
San Francisco, but at the same time, you almost look at that and say, well, those are games we need to win.
Oh, my. I mean, you say to yourself, we got to sweep that series.
Right. Payoff pitch and a head start for JT as Brinson sends one out to center field for Austin Jackson. 7.5 in the books. Sandy Alcantara back out for the 8th. Has been fun to this point. Another one coming up. Jeff Brigham and Jason Vargas are the 2 starting pitchers. The game will start half hour, 45 minutes or so after the conclusion of game 1. Seen Vargas quite a bit for sure through the course of his big league career, a former Marlin in fact. And for Brigham it will be his 2nd major league start. However, before making his first major league start, which seems like it was about 4 months ago, he just keeps getting pushed back with all the weather and everything else. It'll be his 2nd major league start, but a 2.36 ERA at a few levels of the minor leagues. Certainly hope he is back on track after a rough first start in a Marlins uniform. And we look forward to that. Just as we have looked forward to watching Sandy Alcantara pitch today as Kevin Plawecki fouls it off 0-1. Miguel Rojas moves from short to first. And the guy who we talked to in the middle of the ball game earlier, JT Riddle, takes over at shortstop. Helping to shore up the defense for the Marlins, trying to protect a 1-run lead against the New York Mets. It's the 3rd game of this 4-game series. The Mets have won 8 of the 14 meetings thus far, inside to Plawecki, 2-1. And prior to last night's game, as Adam Conley continues to loosen up in the Marlins bullpen, prior to last night's game, Mets won at 13-0. These 2 teams, it was 6 wins for the Marlins in 13 games, so a 6-7 record, and the runs scored for each team 45 apiece, but clearly skewed a little bit in favor of the Mets after their win last night. 2-2. This is a little low.
Alcantara has been in complete control this afternoon. I'm telling you. 2-seam fastball to the inside part of the plate. That inside corner against the right-handed hitters has been outstanding. Ability to use his slider both for strikeouts and at the front end of some at-bats to get ahead. Really, really good. Half the pitches today, 95 miles an hour or more. Tell you, the poise and demeanor of this young man is quite impressive. I'd love to know what changed from the first start to the second one.
This is inside, a leadoff walk.
Looks like manager Don Mattingly is going to make his way out here in the 8th.
Don Mattingly out. And it will be 7+ again for Sandy Alcantara in back-to-back starts. Florida Lottery call to the bullpen. Adam Conley coming in will try to protect this 1-run lead. In front by a run. Mets, however, have the tying run on base. Adam Conley into the ball game. The Coors Light refreshing finish. He came out of the bullpen on Tuesday in the first game of this series and pitched pretty well. Got the last 2 outs of the 7th, and then a couple of strikeouts in the 8th. And that is certainly what the Marlins are hoping for here today.
All in all, Conley has had a very nice season, at least in terms of batting average against. I know the ERA at times we look up at it and we see it in the 4s, but you know, so much of the story there is a few bad outings that kind of lead you to that bloated ERA. He's really been much, much better. 42 strikeouts, 44 innings. Lefties hitting 200, righties 214. It tells you can get both out. And one other thing that you like to pay attention to, and I mentioned it last time, I'm going to mention it again. He loves to pitch at Citi Field. 1.62 career ERA. Just over 50 innings.
This is Jeff McNeil, the Florida Lottery in-game jackpot. 342 in the minor leagues, 340 at the big league level. Of course, the number of games cut in half. He had 19 home runs in the minors this year, but is one of those young Mets who is making the most of his opportunity here toward the end of the season. He's had 14 multi-hit games. Squares to bunt and bunts it foul, 1-2. 14 multi-hit games in the 46 games since being called up.
He comes into today's game with a 3-hit effort in 3 of his last 4. I mentioned it before, one of the few likes to hit here at Citi Field. 456 average on the season. Slider comes up just a little bit short. Nice job by JT. Slide out, keep that in front.
Two-two pitch is just a little low, 3-2.
Let's take another look.
Very
pitch.
close.
Close on the edge, right?
Try that same spot. This time he gets him. A very similar pitch.
Huge out for Conley. Well, listen, I think we all agreed that this was a really close pitch, but if you look at them both, one over the other, it is just a little bit more in the strike zone. Clearly understand the frustration of McNeil, but watch JT Realmuto, who has really started to do a fantastic job this year framing. He was really, I don't want to say a work in progress last season. He was getting really good at it, but there's been a number of times, and when you see hitters turn around as much as we've seen here, particularly in the second half, a lot of that goes, see, here's the thing, we watch it on TV and we say it's on the umpire. JT's doing what we used to talk about, Tyler Flowers doing this all the time, stealing strikes, right? As you like to say, presenting it better, I believe.
Well, it's the catchers say they're presenting, the hitters say they're stealing. That's all it is.
He's stealing strikes. I love it.
Perspective of it, yes. But either way, a big first out here in the 8th as Jack Reinheimer takes low, 2-1. Reinheimer's made his presence felt in this game despite an 0 for 2. A leaping grab, catching a Miguel Rojas line drive with the bases loaded and 2 outs. That took away, in all likelihood, a 2-run single for Miggy. I think there's a plane landing at LaGuardia.
Sounds like there's a plane landing at Citi Field.
It might have been, yeah. The other night, what was it, Monday? I know, sorry. The night, the blowtorch night in Philly?
Sure.
Was that Monday?
Yes.
They were thinking about having a helicopter over the field.
That would have been interesting.
To try to dry it out a little bit because it had taken on so much water. On the ground, Miggy knocks it down, makes the play, throws to second. It's a tag play.
My goodness.
Plawecki in there safely, but Marlins do get the 1 over at first.
All right, he almost turned this, and that's the reaction. Rojas knocks this ball down, and typically you'll see a first baseman. As soon as that happens there, just take that out at first base, but goes ahead and makes the throw to second base. It would take a perfect throw, but was able to turn the double play anyway. Nice job by Miguel Rojas. Close play at second.
Now the tying run in scoring position. 2 outs for Brandon Nimmo. Nimmo a leadoff double in the first inning. One of only 2 hits surrendered by the starter Sandy Alcantara. This one looped out behind short, and Riddle makes the play. So Conley comes in, inherits a base runner, and sets the next 3 down in order. 3-2 to the 9th. Sandy Alcantara goes 7+ innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. And now it's going to be Jerry Blevins to take over. 57th game for the lefty.
Generally described as a lefty specialist, and well, here's why. He's pitching in his 57th game in his 38th inning. It certainly tells you what Blevins' job is to do: get lefties out. And one quick note on Sandy. We talked about this going into the ballgame. One thing that really stood out over the first couple of starts, and did so today. You mentioned the double from Nimmo last time up, led off this ballgame. Didn't give up another hit to a left-handed hitter. On the season now, 2 for 33 to the lefties. It's an .061 batting average. You want to know if Sandy Alcantara's stuff plays at the major league level? It most definitely does. Signs like that, those are really strong tells of what his stuff is doing.
That one low to JT Riddle leading things off. Came in as a defensive replacement. So getting his first at-bat of the afternoon. Took over for Peter O'Brien, who got the scoring started today with his first Marlins home run to right center field. That one foul. 1-2. Riddle, Galloway, and Ortega for the Marlins here in the 9th. You get the sense that a lot of it's going to be up to Sandy and just how good, or hopefully great, he becomes. Don Mattingly, after his last start, he said the key is when you talk about him, you talk about the potential of him. Is he a top of the rotation guy? Only he tells us that. And a few starts in, he has been showing us quite a bit. Here's a 2-2 pitch to Riddle, and it misses low and in. Full count. Swung on and missed. Blevins gets the lefty Riddle for the first out here in the 9th. We check in with Jessica.
Hey, Paul, the Marlins have a really cool offer for all the nonprofits out there. If you're from Broward, Monroe, Miami-Dade, or Palm Beach County, you can request up to 50 complimentary tickets for the Marlins' final homestand. Upon redeeming your tickets, you'll be entered into the Marlins Charity Derby sweepstakes, where you could win a $4,500 gift from the Marlins for your organization. For full details, visit marlins.com/charity derby. Paul?
Jessica, thanks so much. Yeah, the Marlins continue to do an amazing job in the Miami and surrounding Miami communities, all the way from beginning of the year to the end of the year. And I'm not talking the baseball year, I'm talking the calendar year. So good on the Marlins to do that and finish the baseball season strong in that way as well. Isaac Galloway, back half of the back-to-back home runs back in the 2nd.
He's had a big moment in this ball game. Mentioned the home run, 3rd of the season. He's been biding his time, keeping himself ready. Not easy to do. He's been playing I don't want to necessarily call it a platoon role, but he's been in and out of the lineup and doing things the right way, staying ready in between.
Cuts and misses, and back-to-back strikeouts for Blevins here in the 9th. Two outs for Rafael Ortega. A couple of ground outs, got a base hit in the 7th inning. That hit snapped an 0 for 19 for Ortega. Sharply hit single to the right side.
Well, you heard me define Blevins as a lefty specialist. This has been a bit of an odd year for him. He's actually struggled a little bit more with the lefties than the righties. Lefties coming into today's appearance hitting up over 290, righties 140.
Adam Conley finished off the 8th. Kyle Bearclaw loosening for the second time this afternoon. Chris Bostic on deck. Would the called strike 3 of Tom Hallion bother you as a player?
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't. He would never have gotten me. I can almost guarantee you that.
Try to wait as long as humanly possible to ask that question.
Right. He's done a few of our games this year, and I'm not a big fan of being startled. So, especially when somebody sneaks up on you or whatever, I don't really handle that particularly well. And that strike 3 call, as classic as it is, probably would bother me immensely. So with 2 strikes, anything that didn't bounce, I'm sure I probably would take a
strong core muscles.
That's
He's got great torque. Great torque on the called strike 3.
That's right.
Not needed there as Ortega goes down swinging, but 3 strikeouts in the inning for Blevins. Marlins will try to protect this 1-run lead going to the last of the 9th. Next. Fox Sports Florida is brought to you by Southwest. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. And by your South Florida Honda dealers. 3-2 the score as we go to the bottom of the 9th inning. First game of a single admission doubleheader here at Citi Field. Third of a 4-game series. As Adam Conley stays in the ball game. He will face Jay Bruce to lead off the 9th. Bruce, Flores, and Conforto. McNeary's Sierra taking over in right field. That moves Galloway to left. As the Marlins continue to shore up their defense in different spots. Bruce takes outside. You like the move of Conley getting the 9th as well as finishing the 8th.
You see how this Mets lineup is stacked. You got 3 lefties there at the top. Obviously, Nimmo's out of the way, but here you are with Bruce. You've got Conforto waiting. Just behind Flores. I like the thoughts. I like what the way this is going. Rosario sneaking to the on-deck circle.
Right, that was the pitcher spot by mistake, so not Flores. Figured to be Rosario next as Bruce pops this one up. Foul ground for Rojas. 1 away. So it will be Rosario to take the at bat here in the 9th inning with 1 out. Rosario 8 homers and 46 RBIs this series. He has just the 1 hit. Don Mattingly is going to ask for time and go to the bullpen. So Conley will not face Rosario. It will be Kyle Bearclaw. So Bearclaw will get Rosario as the Marlins make the Florida lottery call to the bullpen with a 3-2 lead here in Queens. Trying to get the last 2 outs of this ball game. 3-2 the score. Marlins in front, trying to get the first game of this doubleheader. And for Bearclaw, 56th game for him, does have the 10 saves. But certainly the second half of this season has been a bit more of a struggle for a guy who was the reliever of the month in June. A DL stint mixed in there as well. Hopefully get back on track at the last 2 outs. But he will not face Rosario. Instead, Dominic Smith off the bench for the Mets.
Dominic Smith, 2 for 12 pinch hitting this season, 4 for 16 in his career. Does have an RBI this year. Now for Bearclaw, lefty's hitting 174, righty's 214 on the season.
Now for Dominic Smith, connecting on a home run last night. Part of a Mets offensive outburst against the Marlins. Just missed $370,000 worth of.
375 now.
Well, it's because he just went right over the top of it. That's why.
I'm just telling you, I'm looking at it.
Yeah, no.
Fans at home want to know. It's 375
frankly,
now.
I hope it goes up to 380. Okay, because that means he didn't hit the sign now either.
Yeah, but you'd want it to stay at 375, not 380.
No, 380 means he didn't do it, and then we can move on to the next game.
Yeah,
and they add another 5,000.
But it also means he hit a homer.
No. It's every homer it goes up. Oh, every homer it's 5,000 that they don't hit it. Oh yeah, no, keep it right. Yeah, all right.
Regroup.
Yeah, right. Back to the drawing board.
Head 1-2.
Little low, 2-2.
Good try. Well, Bearclaw, we certainly have documented here in the second half some of the issues. Really, it's just been control and command. It's not his stuff. It's the ability to throw strikes. Think back to pitcher of the month, reliever of the month in June. Put all 3 pitches right where he wanted.
JT's going to field this one and get Smith by a step at first. 2 down.
Nice job by Claw. Good sequencing there. All 3 pitches in. He gave nothing for Smith to sit on. Nice job by JT for out number 2 in the 9th.
So the Marlins and out away from taking this first game of a doubleheader, but Michael Conforto steps in. 24 home runs, 64 ribbies. Takes inside for ball 1. 0 for 3 today. And 0 for 5 in his career against Bearclaw with 3 strikeouts. And Conforto with a drive to right has tied the game.
Well, Conforto reacts to a straight changeup and didn't do much. Out over home plate at 87 miles an hour. All over it. Drove it into the upper deck in right. He continues to hit the long ball here in the second half. Conforto has had that power swing going. We've seen it in this series already now 2 times. 1-0, 87 mile an hour changeup.
And now Todd Frazier takes a strike.
When you watch the glove of JT, see the reaction. Kind of tells you the story. Reaching back across the plate, 107 miles an hour off the bat, 387 feet. Give you one more look. This was definitely a no-doubter.
And now Frazier, left center field, has won it for the Mets.
Well, what was a game that was seemingly under control and one that just felt was in the hands of the Marlins was snatched away with back-to-back home runs here in the 9th inning by Michael Conforto and Todd Frazier. Both find the long ball, and the Mets get the walk-off win in game 1, 4-3.
Well, the questions will certainly be asked after the game to Don Mattingly, and only he can answer those questions of why Kyle Bearclaw was put in that spot. Again, he's seeing more bullpens than we are to understand where he's at, but just the numbers. Last 8 1/3 innings prior to today, 17 earned runs for Kyle Bearclaw.
Yeah, as I said before, again, this isn't Kyle's stuff. We're not talking lack of velocity or the ability to break pitches, talking about his slider, talking about his changeup. He's missing his spots, and he continues to miss. The 1-0 pitch to Conforto, you're not going to get away with that up in the zone for a changeup. That fastball right there really did just split the plate. It's as simple as that. And you've got hitters and hitters counts hunting pitches out over the plate.
Tough one. Marlins don't have long to recover, recoup, and regroup. Marlins Live post-game show in advance of Game 2 coming up next.